Sorry, start again. With me today is Jessica Gilchrist. Jess has worked across many industries, including a social enterprise she co founded. Jess recently moved over 14,000 kilometres from Australia to Canada to take up an exciting new role. A few months in, the COVID-19 pandemic paralysed the world and turned people's lives upside down. Unfortunately, Jess had to let the opportunity go, but's now back in Australia in a new role and a new industry. Welcome, Jess, and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so Jess, you left high school and studied a diploma of event management. Was this an industry that you had an interest in while you were at high school?
Yes, the only reason it interests me was because I actually loved to party when I was in high school. So I didn't actually know what I wanted to do, but when I was going through all the career development and career days that you go to when you're at high school, I always had a passion for organizing. My family knew me to be a very organized individual, and I love to go to parties. So I thought event planning.
Perfect fit, especially for a high schooler.
Yeah.
Did your high school support that career choice? Was there sort of pathways for you to enter event management from school?
Yes, they were very supportive of any career choice. They didn't sort of guide us towards what they would recommend. They were very open to a discussion about what we love to do and whatever way we were going in our personal journey.
So did you have the variety of subjects in high school, or did you sort of just do the standard subjects and then have the electives as the other options?
There was a variety of subjects. The subjects were very school academic focused. My school in particular was very sport and academic focused. And I selected elective like drama, loved my drama classes, my art classes. I was very creative, but I always tried really hard at math, loved math, but I was never really great at it, but I put my heart and soul into it. But yeah, I just did the standard sort of electives at school.
So with the math, was that because you wanted to sort of go into something that had math as a prerequisite, or did you just want to try hard at something that you weren't particularly good at?
Try hard at something that I wasn't good at.
So that's probably set the scene for your future career, which we're sort of going to delve into a bit as we sort of progress. But did you go straight into that diploma from high school, or did you have a little bit of a break in between?
Yes, I did. So I actually chose not to go to university because I wasn't a huge fan of going and sitting in lectures all day, every day. I've always been a very hands on, creative, get in there and get the job done sort of person. I didn't want to sit in lecture rooms and then learn through someone telling you what to do. I wanted to actually do it myself. That's the reason I chose a TAFE over a university, and it suited my personality. That's where the decision came from. So yes, I did go straight into it because it was a hands-on experienced and going and getting your hands dirty sort of course.
And so you worked in the event management space for quite a few years. Can you tell us a bit about this industry and I suppose a few industry secrets, what goes on behind the scenes?
Yeah, sure. So my very first job was at Atlantic Group, and I learned loads at Atlantic Group. So I was there. I actually discovered Atlantic Group when we went on it was like a excursion part of our course at William Angliss, and we went there. And as soon as I went there and I saw the venue spaces, I was like, I want to work here. And there was no turning back. I volunteered at the venue space. I went to any sort of event I could go to at that particular venue. And when I volunteered there, I always worked out who the manager was, who the GM was, who the managing director was, just through conversation. And that's how I actually got my job as receptionist at Atlantic Group. And it didn't come easy. I found out who the general manager was through a security guard when I was volunteering. And I went up to him and he was like, "You need to go speak to this gentleman." And so I did. And it was daunting, but I did it anyway. And he gave me his business card and he said, "Send me your resume." And then I literally called him and emailed him for about 6 months.
Wow.
And every time he said, "No, we don't have anything available. No, we don't have anything available." And I think one of my skill sets is persistence.
Definitely.
And pretty much Atlantic Group gave me the job because they just said, "Just give this girl a job just so she stops annoying us." And that's
So
how it started.
how did you keep sort of bouncing back from that rejection of, especially at a young age when people are saying, no, we don't have anything? Like, what made you continue to persevere and to contact them constantly?
Because they never told me to stop contacting them. They said, "There's nothing available right now."
Right.
So there was never a sign that said, "We're not going to hire you," because they never said that.
Yep.
So
So there was
I
that little bit
knew,
of opening.
yeah, and I
Perfect.
wanted it. So I went after it.
Well done. So what made you want to work with them so badly?
When I was doing my research into the events industry, this particular company was very innovative, very forward thinking. They had brand new venue space in Docklands, and it was really the it place in Melbourne at that time. And I just loved the space. I loved their offices. There was everything about Atlantic Group I loved. So that's why I went into it. And I did do lots of research into different venues, into the event management industry as a whole. And that was the one company that stood out to me. And my values aligned with them.
And so did they live up to your expectations once you started working with them?
Yes. So I started in reception, and I'll never forget my so the receptionist job was really important to the managing director at the time. So he was actually the one that interviewed me with his EA.
Wow.
And because how he saw the receptionist was the director of first impressions.
That's a perfect
So
way to describe it.
yep. So he saw this role as a very important role in his business. And so that's how I went in there, thinking exactly the same thing. So I started in reception, and then I moved in up into event administrator, event coordinator, event manager. And every single role brought a different learning. And it was such a great experience and such a great place to begin my career,
Mhm.
because there was a lot of things that I learned what to do and what not to do.
So you went on then to become you did leave there. So what was the decision around leaving? Because you went on to become a tour guide, so which we'll talk about in a moment. But what was how hard was the decision to change and move from a company that you really enjoyed working with?
So I decided to leave because I wanted to explore the other side of event management. So I was on the venue management side of things. So we actually had the venues and we were managing, being the event managers inside the venues. But I wanted to get into the other side, which was we were event management company, and we went into the venues and brought in the caterers and brought in the theming and brought in that sort of thing. So I actually went for a job at a company called The Greatest Show on Earth. And I met this company through Atlantic Group. I did an event for them. And I was there for about a month. And then they actually fired me.
Oh, why?
So they said that I wasn't what they expected. I didn't even know what that meant at the time. They didn't really give me a reason. I don't think it was the truth, to be honest, because they're no longer in business. So I think it had maybe a little bit to do with that. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, I always see things like that, everything happens for a reason. I've always been a firm believer of that. And that really pushed me into starting my own business. So I always wanted to have my own business, but it is a sort of a leap of faith when you do go that way. And when you are comfortable in your career and you're enjoying your career, it's hard to take that leap of faith. So I saw me getting fired as a sign of I need to take that leap of faith.
And so tell us a bit about the business that you went on to start.
Yes, so my first business was called High Style Events, and it was inspired through Atlantic Group. And the events that I really loved to do at Atlantic Group were the smaller events where you could put that personalized small touches like notes and bomboniere and all those little things that make an event really special. And also high tea. I loved high tea. So the high style events concept was built around taking high tea into the privacy of people's homes and adding all of those little touches, like the notes, like the quote cards, like the flowers, like the candles, all those little things that go into what makes an event special.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the special things that people remember. People don't remember much of an event, but they do certainly remember those little special touches.
Yes.
So how long did you spend doing that?
6 months. And then my auntie Susie came to me. She had the Chocoholic Tours business, and she came to me and said she actually was unwell. And she'd had this business for 10 years, and I was tour guiding for her at the same time while I was building up my high style events. And she said to me that she would like me to take it over from her because she had been diagnosed with dementia and she was just going to go downhill. And obviously, when you are a tour guide, you have to remember information, and there's lots of things you have to remember as a tour guide. And she was seeing the side effects of her diagnosis affect her tour guiding. And she could also see how much I was enjoying the tour guiding. So she came to me, her and my uncle David came to me and asked me if I would consider taking over Chocoholic Tours as my own business. With high style events, so I could incorporate it into Chocoholic Tours, and I said yes.
Now, how much pressure was on you then to obviously take over that business, which was an established business at that stage, and you were quite young, especially given that your aunt was ill, because you'd obviously want to, impress her and make her proud. So how much pressure did you take on your shoulders when you took on that role?
Look, I wouldn't say it was pressure. It didn't feel like pressure because I still had the support of my auntie and my uncle. So my uncle was an accountant, so he helped me with the books, the invoicing, making sure that everything was covered from paying wages and paying salaries, invoices, all that sort of thing. And my auntie was still there on the side coaching me through how to be an amazing tour guide. And she was an amazing tour guide. Like, she was incredible. She was so well known in her industry. And she was like my mentor through that whole transition. So I never felt like I was on my own. I always had them guiding me along the way. And Susie was there for about a year full time with me. And then she went downhill quite fast.
So Chocoholic Tours is quite a popular tour in Melbourne. It's sort of a bit of a must do when you go to Melbourne. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So Chocoholic Tours is a chocolate tour experience around Melbourne's laneways and arcades. So we, as your tour host, will take you around Melbourne's iconic laneways, arcades. We'll take you to all the secret chocolate hideaways around the city and feed you lots of chocolate, tell you about Melbourne's history, where we started, the history of the chocolate shops that we go to. And I actually incorporated, when I first, a couple of years in, actually, chocolate and wine tastings as well.
Oh, okay. So you were quite innovative when when you went into that business, and you took it from a paper-based business to completely digital. So was that your first sort of foray into digitalization, or did you sort of take that from other businesses? How did that come about?
Yes, it was my first way of taking paper to digital. Yeah. Um, when I first started at Chocoholic Tours, I think maybe it was my generation. We were everything was digital. We had our phones, our iPhones. Whenever I booked a tour, I went on to TripAdvisor or a booking platform and made my booking. So it was easy. And Susie didn't have that. Someone would call her on the phone and she had a big Collins diary from Officeworks, and she'd write down one person, first name, last name, phone number, and then put credit card through, and then it was just in the diary.
Wow.
It was it was incredible how she did it. I was like, wow, how did you run a business like this? Like, it was, but she'd been doing it for 10 years. Like, it worked.
Wow.
But I just knew that if I was going to run it, I wanted to make it more efficient, and I wanted a business that could grow. I didn't want a business that I was going to keep the same. I wanted a business that could grow and have an influx of participants, chocoholics, we called them. And it wasn't admin heavy. And
So I
that's
have
what
to ask,
technology did.
just just sort of stepping away from the tech for a moment, how how hard was it working with chocolate every day and not wanting to eat it?
Oh, I ate a lot. But I always say, because of the chocolate places that we went to were high end chocolate places. So they were boutique, they were Caliber, Belgium chocolate, they were good quality chocolate. So whenever you had chocolate, it was good quality, and you didn't really need a lot of it because it was good quality.
And I suppose you're walking as well, so that's sort of like counterbalances it.
Exactly. Yes.
Now, do you think that your experience in events helped you with the business development aspect of this role?
Um, no, I actually got a coach.
Wow. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes. So as soon as I started Chocoholic Tours, this was when I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing in terms of running a business, because there's lots of accounting, there was lots of marketing, there was lots of dealing with customers. That was easy, like, because I've always been quite a people person. I love people, I love chatting, I love making people happy. So that was the easy part. But the sales and the business development side of things, it's quite an art.
Mm.
So I knew that I needed help in that side of things because I'd never done it professionally before. And I knew that sales is like the food for your business. So if you don't have sales, you don't have a business. So I knew that I needed a bit of coaching around sales, the art behind sales, the psychology behind your customer and why they buy and all that sort of thing. So I found myself a coach.
Well done, because most people wouldn't put their hands up and say, this is a shortcoming of, myself and, I need some help. So well done. And
Thank you.
business development is, it's a tough and it's a difficult role. So you need to be able to develop long-term relationships with so many different people from different walks of life. How did you tackle the challenges of that role?
So with business development, I think it is all about relationships. And the one thing that I struggled with at the beginning was I was quite young and I was talking to a lot of people that were a lot older, a lot more experienced in their careers. And I was intimidated and I did sort of have to put on a front, I suppose, like I was more mature or which I did exactly. I did it at Atlantic Group as well. I sort of put on a front to act like I was older than I was because I felt like that was how I could fit in. I look back at that now and I think I should have just been Jess
Mhm.
because people like Jess, like you can't fake who you are. And that has helped me a lot with my business development journey because I'm authentic now. I'm authentic when I speak to people. I'm real. Um, I I generally care for the people that I am working with. So I am generally trying to solve their problems and I'm generally trying to help them in their business and coming up with ways to improve my service to help their business grow. So it's not like I'm trying to make a sale. I never think about it like that. I always think about it, well, how am I solving their problem or how am I helping them in their business, which then they would want to work with me because it's like a no-brainer because they can see the value that I'm bringing into their business.
So was there sort of a defining moment when you said, I just need to be Jess?
Hmm, probably when I was a tour guide
Mhm.
because you couldn't put a front on that you were in front of an audience,
Yeah, for
30
an extended
people.
period of time. So it'd be hard to sort of fake it, for a long duration.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was exhausting trying to be someone that you weren't and trying to be I think I was a little bit more serious.
Mhm.
And then I realized like, well, why do I need to be serious? I can just have fun and be Jess and it's less exhausting. And yeah, it just worked because people like people that are authentic.
Absolutely. Now, you went you went on in 2016 to co-found Pink Boots Hire with your family. Now, this company is unique as you donate $10 from every hire to the Pink Boots Foundation, which is a not-for-profit organization that your family established. Now, all the funds raised go towards the Olivia Newton-John Cancer Wellness and Research Centre and its programs. So, firstly, thanks to you and your family for establishing that foundation. It's absolutely fantastic, and you do that wholeheartedly. But how did the foundation come about, and Why did you choose that charity?
So when I was running Chocoholic tours, I think it was three years in to Chocoholic tours, I actually got diagnosed with cervical cancer. So I had to pretty much get all my staff on board and give them the news and tell them that I'm going to be off work for a year probably, because I had to go through chemotherapy and radiotherapy and all the things that go with when you find out you've got cancer. So I went through that for a year and decided in that time that I was actually going to sell Chocoholic tours, because it was going very well, but I just couldn't give it the time that it needed. So I decided to sell that right after I went through cancer, and I actually got treated at the Olivia Newton-John Cancer Wellness Centre. So that's where I had my chemotherapy and my radiotherapy. So that's where, so once I sold Chocoholics to one of my tour guides, which was awesome, I didn't know what I was going to do afterwards. My father is in the construction industry, and he came to me with an opportunity to buy a access equipment hire business. And I had no idea what access equipment was. And I just said to him, you know what? Why not? But if I'm going to do it, I want to give back. I want to come up with a social enterprise, because obviously I'd just been through this huge event in my life. I wanted to do something that was giving back to that wellness center that had literally saved my life. So I went to my dad and my brother with the idea of Pink Boots Hire. That came from, I was in a trade store and I saw the pink steel blue boots, and I'm very girly. And I thought, if I'm going to go into the trade industry, I want to make it a little bit girly. So I said to my brother and my dad, I said, how about we call it Pink Boots Hire? And we donate $10 towards the Olivia Newton-John Cancer Wellness Centre. And they were on board.
That's perfect and well done. And obviously you were very young when you went through that battle. So, you know, I don't even know what it would be like to have to go through that, let alone making, you know, career altering decisions. But, you know, you've come out the other side and, you know, you're absolutely glowing now. So I'm so glad that the Olivia Newton-John Wellness Centre was able to help you. So anybody out there that wants to donate, feel free to contact Jess, and Jess will be able to help you with the donation for sure. Now, as you said, Pink Boots is predominantly in the access hire space, and that's such a career shift from event management. How did you find the adjustment?
It was very challenging. I think the first year, there was lots of days where I cried. Because it was a new industry. It was a male-dominated industry. It was a client base that I hadn't experienced before, in terms of they're all tradies, they're all very casual, they were all very like they need it now, sort of, which is, it was an adjustment period. And also they would ask me technical questions about a scissor lift or a knuckle boom or a cherry picker, which I didn't even know what they were at the time. And plus, one of the side effects to when I went through cancer, and I look back now, and maybe I started a new business maybe a little bit too soon after I went through all of that, because I had cervical cancer, I had a hysterectomy. So I was going through menopause at the same time.
Wow.
So I was also adjusting to, you had to work out your hormone levels and you had to take HRT, and like there was all sorts of different things going on with my body that I didn't
Mm.
quite understand yet. And I decided to take on a new business venture.
Yeah,
Like
that's huge.
I, I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, I'm crazy. But I did it. I came through after a year. Knew exactly what I was doing. I did exactly the same thing as what I did with Chocoholics. I took it from a paper-based business. So we bought it off a gentleman called John White, who was an electrician. He just had 15 machines and he was just running it out of his factory. And then we took it over. The first year was all about just learning the business, what he did. And then the second year, I did exactly what I did at Chocoholic Tours. I took it from a paper-based business to a digital business. And we went from 15 machines to, I think we've got 40, 40 machines now.
Wow, that's significant growth.
Mm.
So obviously, we did speak about construction and hire being a very, very, very male-dominated industry. Um, and your charity is predominantly, female based. So how did you find the reception from your clients in the donation part of things?
I think the name itself, the Pink Boots Hire, it made people curious. So it stood out because it's very different for that industry. And people would ask questions like, why pink boots? And then because I was doing all of the front end business development sales and going out and meeting people, I would just tell them the story. And once I told them the story, they'd be like, wow, okay, now we get it. And one of the great things about Pink Boots is once we have a client, we often have a client for life.
Mm.
They won't go anywhere else because it's not just about, they have to hire equipment anyway for their jobs, whether it's Pink Boots, whether it's another company. At least with Pink Boots, there's a cause behind it. There's something where they feel like they're giving back to something that they're passionate about. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people, and I met a lot of people out there that have been affected by cancer.
Mm.
So once I shared my story openly with them when I was in a meeting with them, they would share with me, my mum went through cancer, or my brother went through cancer, or this person, that everyone knows someone that's gone through cancer. So when they found out that we were donating towards cancer, or $10 from every hire, they're like, wow, that's awesome.
So did
So
you
it
feel
didn't,
better dealing with those clients because, your moral values and their moral values seem to align?
oh, definitely. It definitely connected the relationship. And that's why I loved being on that side of the business. I loved being out there on the road, bringing on board new clients, because I had a genuine connection to the business in that way, and I could share the story authentically because it was built, and the cause behind it was because I personally went through it. So yeah.
So you spent a great deal of time building up that business and being able to go through that growth phase. When you look back, how hard was that road to tread?
It was very hard, especially it was my first business venture with my family. And working with family is really tough because there's no filters. And like I know my partner worked with his father and his brother in a business, and they worked really well together. They aligned really well. They had very similar values. So it worked really, really well. My brother and my father and I get along really well outside of work, but we maybe didn't quite connect very well inside of work. So that was my biggest challenge because there was no filters with any of us. We probably had different work ethics, and maybe different values as well. We all had the same concept of, what we were trying to achieve in Pink Boots, and we were all there for the same reason. We all wanted this business to be successful, but there was definitely really tough moments as a family business that we had to overcome.
So previously, throughout your career, when you weren't that good at something, you sought out an expert to sort of help you. Did you consider doing that to help your family dynamic working together, or just because it was family, you thought you could sort of get through it?
I did actually recommend that, but it was not something that my brother and my father wanted to do.
Yeah, so you just weren't on all the same page with that.
Yes.
So while you were there, you studied Cert 4 in small business through the RMIT University. How did that course help you with running that small business?
This course was awesome when I first started because I'd never gone through a course to build your business plan. And if you've ever tried to put a business plan together, it's a big document. So it's a big, daunting document that you really have to put a lot of time into it. And I thought, so we can do this right, and so I can present something to my father and brother, the shareholders of the business. I said to my father that I would like to do this course to help build the business plan and come up with a plan of growth for Pink Boots Hire. And he was very supportive of that. So what it did was it gave me 1 day a week outside of the business. So I went into RMIT to solely focus on the business plan. And at the end, I had a business plan. I addressed all the different elements that go into building and making a business successful.
And so did you execute that plan? Were your family on board with that once you came back with that plan to be able to execute it?
Yes.
That's good, because you wouldn't want to spend that time and they not be on board.
Yes. No, they were very much on board on the direction and where we were going to take the business. And I suppose I was the one driving everything at the business. My father was mainly a silent shareholder. And then my brother was very much operational. So I was more the day-to-day systems, processes, client-centric. So a lot of the implementation in the business plan was up to me anyway.
Right. So now you've put a lot of focus on improvement and self-improvement. What would you recommend to listeners with regards to investing in yourself?
I think a coach is really, really handy, not just because it's mainly to keep you accountable. So, and a coach that's going to help you personally and professionally. So the particular coach that I've been working with since I started at Chocoholic Tours, I've been with him the whole time, all the way through, even when I was going through cancer. Like he's yeah, been there all the way through. So he's seen me go through high style events, Chocoholic Tours, Pink Boots Hire, and now onto e-reports. So he has not only taught me about business development, but he's also taught me about the things that you need to do with yourself personally. So the importance of exercise, the importance of, he introduced me to meditation, the importance of keeping things fun and not making it too heavy and not taking yourself too seriously. but also planning and time blocking your day, not letting things disrupt you, not letting things distract you. Like, it's not just a business coach, it's a life coach.
Yeah, so having him on board for such a long time and obviously continuing throughout your whole journey, how much more important is that than having somebody sort of come in and out just to help you with specific things?
I just, I think if you try to do it on your own when you've never done it, how are you going to learn how to do it? So you could have a coach that's going to help you in different industries. And I have, in every industry that I've been in, had a mentor as well. I've proactively seeked out a mentor, and that those relationships happen organically. But having the coach all the way through, who's not active in my business, he's just there on the side to sort of guide me through what's going on, and also have a community of like-minded individuals. So the coach that I have, it's not just about having him, but it's having the community of people that are also part of the same coaching program, that are going through exactly the same things. It doesn't matter what business or industry you're in. Like, business is business at the end of the day. It's the same principles. So having people going through the same thing, that's where the value is for me.
I imagine you'd have much more honest conversations with him than you would most people because he's known you for such a long time. How honest is he with you? Does he sort of tell you to pull your socks up sometimes and forge forward, or
100%. He can be ruthless, but that is the style personally that I like, because he calls you out on your shit. He'll tell you when you're slacking off. He'll tell you when you're in your head about something. He'll tell you he's very transparent, will say it how it is and doesn't have any filters. But that's my style. I like that. Some people don't like that. So it just depends on the personality fit.
Absolutely. So in December 2019, you made a massive decision, not just to leave the role at Pink Boots, but to leave Australia and take up a brand new role in Canada. How did that change come about? And I'm also curious to know what sort of part your business/career lifestyle coach played in that.
Yes. So the decision to leave Pink Boots operationally, so I'm still involved in Pink Boots silently. So I still help the team, and if they need anything, they always reach out to me. But I'm just not part of the day-to-day operational side of the business. Why I decided to do that? One was I was kind of overworking in family business, to be honest. It was really tough working in family business. And I had also got to a point with Pink Boots where it was set up ready for me to step out. And I think whenever I start a new business, that is the ultimate goal. You want to start a business to have people in there running it for you, and you can start on a new venture. Obviously always be there, but ideally the operational side, you get awesome people that are better than you in there to run it for you. So we'd set up the systems and processes for someone to come in and just take it over and run it themselves, which is what happened. And yeah, I had sort of got over working with family. So I'm still involved in the foundation side and the silent shareholder side, but not part of the day-to-day operational. I also always wanted to live and work overseas. So my partner and I had a discussion about it, and we decided that we were both on board and we were at a good age. I had just actually moved out to my 6 monthly checkups for all of my cancer stuff. So I didn't have to go into the doctors very often. So we just thought, let's just do it. Why not? We're in a good position to do it. Pink Boots can survive without me. Liam had his business, which he could move on from. His work were very supportive of his decision. So we just decided to go and live and work overseas. So that's what we did.
Now, unfortunately, you weren't able to be in Canada for too long because of COVID-19. But while you were there, what were the differences that you found working in Canada as opposed to working in a company in Australia?
It was very similar, to be honest. So we decided to live and work in Toronto, and we got ourselves an apartment right in the city so we could travel to work. It took us a little while to find the right workplaces. I actually knew the company that I wanted to work with before I went over, and I ended up securing that job while I was over there as well. I was exploring different options, but I ended up securing the one that I wanted when I was there. But it was very similar. The only thing that was really different was you'd walk outside in the morning and it was negative 20 degrees and snowing.
Wow.
So that it was really, really enjoyable. As soon as I got to Canada, I think I went to about 30, 40 networking events because I just wanted to really embrace the business community in Toronto as well. So I went to, in my first couple of weeks, I got like 70 business cards. It was
Wow.
crazy.
So you're not afraid to put yourself out there and meet new people. How do you psychologically prepare yourself for that? Because people find networking events really challenging sometimes to go out and meet new people and, to sort of put everything aside and just chat. How do you do that?
I think that my tour guiding experience probably helped with that. I've I've always I've always been a real people person. Even when I first started at Atlantic Group, being in reception, or even going up to that security guard when I needed to work out who to speak to at Atlantic Group. I've always been just a curious person. That's ingrained in my personality. So, when I was younger, it was definitely more nerve-wracking to go up to a stranger, and but I think the more you do it, the more you get over it. Because if you go up to a stranger, most people will always be friendly to you.
Very
So
true.
it's and if they're not, who cares? That's their problem, not yours. I think you just have to get out of your mind and stop thinking that this might happen or thinking that that might happen, and just do it and see what happens.
That's really good advice. Get out of your mind.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, you came back to Australia, and I suppose the easy option for you would have been going straight back into Pink Boots, into the family business, but you didn't do that. You went and got a role, and at a time where roles were quite thin, a lot of people, a lot of companies had downsized, a lot of people had lost their jobs, but you were able to get a brand new job in a different industry than what you're used to. Firstly, can you tell us a little bit about that and how you were able to sort of break into that industry? And secondly, how did your family deal with the fact that you didn't want to come back into the family business?
Yeah, so when I got back, I actually was still working for the Canadian company that I was working for. And I was getting up at 4 a.m., starting at 4 a.m. and
Wow.
doing my Canadian day. And that lasted about a month back in Australia. And then they let me go because they were cutting their workforce because the business just wasn't going as well, which, is fair enough. We were going through COVID-19. I totally understood. I took it very well because I was the last one in. I was the first one out. If it was my business, I would do the same. So I didn't take it personally. It was that's just what's happening. That happened about a month after we got back from Canada. And it's really weird how things happen because so I got let go on the Tuesday, and the Friday prior, someone from my business group in Australia, so the coaching program that I'm part of is a global program. So the coach is based in Dubai, but he comes to Australia and does workshops in Australia, and he used to live in Sydney. But because I've been part of that network for so long, one of the people in that group noticed that I was back in Australia and knew that I wasn't working for Pink Boots anymore. So he called me on the Friday and he was like, Jess, I noticed you're back in Australia. And I said, yeah, I am. And he was like, can you come help me build my sales team? And I said to him, I'd love to, but I'm still employed with my Canadian employer. Thank you for the offer. If anything changes, I'll let you know. And then that was on the Friday. And then literally on the Tuesday, I got let go.
Wow.
So I called him back and I said, hey, Chris, so you know how we had that conversation on Friday? I just got let go. So is that still open? And he was like, yes, 100%, come in tomorrow.
Wow.
It was a totally different industry. But one of the things that I have always lent towards is industry change, because one of the things that I've learned in my coaching program is an industry, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, really, it's what you make of it. So people go toward industries that they feel passionate about, but sometimes it's not passionate about the industry, it's passionate about what you're doing every single day. So I'm passionate about sales and connecting and that sort of thing. So I don't actually care what industry it's in. So I've changed industry on purpose to firstly, to make me feel uncomfortable, because I do like to take myself out of my comfort zone constantly, because that's how you grow as a person. And this opportunity came to me, and the company eReports, which is the company I'm with now, the one thing that attracted me to it was the CEO, which was Chris, the friend that reached out to me. He's an incredible leader. I admire what he's done, and it didn't really bother me that it was going into an industry that I hadn't known anything about, because I've done it before. I've gone from events to tourism to construction to now medico-legal. I know that I'll be able to learn the industry as long as I'm doing what I'm passionate about, which is the sales and about like having the fun and that sort of thing. It doesn't really bother me what industry it is, as long as I'm having a good time in my everyday world.
So I think the medico-legal field, though, is so different, because it's where two of the most highly regulated fields in Australia, medical and legal, they collide basically. So what challenges have you faced being in such a highly regulated industry, and how much of the legal and medical aspects of that do you actually have to know?
So I am still learning about the industry. I've only been there for about 6 weeks. So at the moment, I am in learning zone. And the one thing that I have to learn the most about is our client. So our client is a lawyer, and the market that I'm personally focusing on is the plaintiff law side of things. So I don't have to become a lawyer, but I sort of do in a way, because I have to understand the way they think, what they're looking for in the reports that we're supplying, and what the outcome's going to be. Or I've literally read so many different reports at e-reports now that all of them are so different. So I am really in research and development phase of this new role. So the first thing I've been doing is just calling all of our clients and asking them what they like about e-reports, what's important to them with the specialists. I'm learning about impairments, the guides that they have to use, the different injuries. So yeah, it's interesting, actually, really interesting. But I don't have to be a lawyer and I don't have to be a medical specialist, but I have to learn both sides to understand who they are and how they think.
So do you think there'll be any specific training that you'll undertake for this, whether it's, of your own accord or through the organization that you're working with?
I'm sure there will be, but not at this stage.
But will you seek out any, obviously you've sought out a lot of assistance previously in your careers. Do you think that that will carry through and you'll, end up with some lawyer and a doctor that's mentoring you as well to learn more about it?
It wouldn't surprise me if I did seek out someone to mentor me through this industry, and Chris is the ideal person at the moment because he's really mentoring me through this industry. And I have already created some great relationships within this industry and reached out to use my existing network who are lawyers or may know a lawyer, and they then introduce me to that lawyer, and then I have a conversation with them, and reached out to barristers. And again, it's doing what I love to do, which is just reaching out to new people, connecting with new people, and creating those relationships to help you through the industry.
So talking about networks, a lot of previous guests have talked about the value of their network. You've got a really big network, and how much value do you place on the network that you have?
Huge. I think the people around you and the connections that you make in your life is huge, because in the field that I'm in, which is business development, I'm relying on my networks all the time to help me through whatever I'm doing. If I don't know something, or if I need more information on something, I will just reach out to people that I know to help me, because you're constantly learning new things. So I use my network all the time. Even if I'm not working with them right now, it would have been someone that I met 5 years ago that I know that they're an expert in this field. So I'll reach out to them and say, hey, can you help me with this? Can we have a phone conversation for 10 minutes? And usually it's a yes.
Perfect. Okay, so what's next for Jess?
Well, at the moment, it is building a awesome sales team at eReports. So we are in the middle of hiring new staff to join me and my team. So at the moment, we're calling it the outbound sales team, and Chris has never had an outbound sales team at eReports. They've always been account managers. So I am the only person in the outbound sales team at the moment. And my colleague Tony, actually, he's sort of doing a bit of both at the moment. But it is to build that team to help grow Chris's business.
And how do you feel about growing somebody else's business and stepping away from your own? Is that a bit of a challenge? Like, I know you're a silent shareholder still in Pink Boots, but do you find it hard knowing that your time is being put into growing somebody else's and not your own?
I think because I really feel that I'm working with Chris, and even though I'm working in his business, he's making me feel it's my, like, the sales team and the building the sales outbound team is my business within his business. So I suppose I've gone from like being the entrepreneur to the intrapreneur, and I'm just testing out the intrapreneur now. So I think it's the way you look at it. So even though I'm not running a business myself, it's actually pretty cool working alongside with Chris, who's a really inspiring leader who can guide me through this new industry, but also feel like have got your own little mini business inside his business.
So you're able to take ownership basically of your role and growing that part of it.
Yes. And Chris is giving me permission to do that though. So he's a great leader.
I think that's key there, is because a lot of business owners, they will employ people, but they won't actually empower them to do their roles. So I think that's a good takeaway, is that, you know, to be able to do something really well, you need to be empowered to do your role. So
Yes. And he's very open to change as well, because I have come in to his business with, you know, a different way of looking at things. And I come in there and I've got like a really high energy. I'm changing things up. I'm changing processes. And he's very open to change. And a lot of leaders that have been, or CEOs that have been in their business for 25 years are not open to change. This is the way we do it, and this is the way we do it. And if you don't like it, then you can leave. That's not Chris. Chris is, let's disrupt this industry. Let's do something different. That's the only way we're going to grow this business to the next level.
that's fantastic. And look, let's hope that maybe Chris gets out and mentors a few people himself to, you know, to share that passion for disruption and for empowering people. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's
Now,
really exciting.
Jess, I think you're the epitome of perseverance, demonstrating passion, putting yourself out there, and just really being authentic. But I have a question for you. What would you do differently if only you knew?
I think what I would do differently is, if I knew more about what my daily habits, how they impacted my decision making, how they impacted the way I thought and what I did. If I knew that, I would have worked more on that when I was younger. So I mentioned earlier that I've now got into meditation. I've now got into things like exercise and really prioritized those personal things that help me professionally. I would have done a lot more of that when I was younger.
That's fantastic, because I think a lot of people, you know, they might invest in themselves, you know, through doing courses and, you know, reaching out, I suppose, to business coaches and things like that, but they're not investing necessarily in themselves, in their own well-being. Do you think that going through cancer though is one of those things that made you change that mindset? Do you think you have to go through something as tough as that to change that
I don't
perception on the
think
way that you need to be?
I don't think so. Um, Look, there probably was a little bit of an element of going through quite a dramatic event in my life, because before that, I was go, 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 go. I'd be at work at 6, 7 a.m. I'd be leaving at 6, 7 p.m. And I wasn't prioritizing exercise. I wasn't prioritizing keeping Jess well.
Mm.
And I think, yeah, it probably did impact that a little bit. But I also think my coach has evolved a lot as well in himself personally. And I think he teaches a lot of that now.
Mm.
And that's probably another thing that has made me go that way.
So as he's evolved, you've been able to evolve as well.
Yeah.
That's really good. Now, Jess, I've really enjoyed chatting with you today, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me and to share your journey.
Thank you so much for having me, Christy. It's been awesome.
That's excellent. Now, if you'd like to know more about Jess, you can follow her on LinkedIn, and Jess's full bio will be on our website, ifonlyyouKnewpodcast.com.au. And we'll also put a link there to the Olivia Newton-John Wellness Centre. So if anybody wants to donate, they'll be able to do that, or by all means, reach out to Jess via LinkedIn or to the show via LinkedIn, and we'll be able to put you on that path of donating to such a worthy cause. So thanks, Jess. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.